What's going on, guys? Today I'll be talking about long-term food storage. But first, if you're new here and you want to learn how to live better, live cheaper, and survive when things get tough, then subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified each time that I upload a new video. Now let's get started. Long-term food storage is like anything else in prepping. What you choose and how you do it will depend on the individual and your preferences and things like that, what you like to eat and how many people's in your group and where you're at and everything like that. I mean, everything is a little bit different. But a lot of stuff overlaps, so I'm going to go over some food storage items here today that you should consider for your long-term food storage plans. First thing you should consider is salt. Salt for the table and cooking should be iodized salt, like this. You can also get salt blocks and things like that to put out if you're in the right area where you have deer and elk and things, you can put the salt blocks out. You can actually go to Walmart and get these salt blocks actually made for the purpose. You can also get the ones like at Farmers Co-op and places like that are made for cattle, and you put those out in the woods where deers are, and they will find those and they will come to those and lick that salt block every night. And it's real easy to actually hunt over salt like that. It's illegal to do, and in most places you have to remove the bait like 3 months before deer season opens. But if it's in a survival situation and you're hungry and you're starving, it won't matter anyway, so it's good for that too. You need to get at least 10 pounds of iodized salt per person per year in your group. The next thing you should consider for your long-term food storage is rice. I prefer brown rice because it's more nutritious and has more fiber, but white rice stores longer and easier to store. You need to get about 30 pounds per adult per year. The storage life of brown rice is around 8 to 9 years depending on how it's stored. But like I said, I prefer brown rice over white rice, but you might want to get white rice instead. But really, white rice has very little nutritional value. It's more or less just total carbohydrates. Next thing you might want to consider is wheat. I prefer hard red mineral wheat because it stores longer and I just like it better. But you'll need, if you store whole wheat like this, you'll need to get a grain grinder, and I talked about that in another video. I'll put a link down in the description below to Amazon to the one I prefer and the one I recommend. You'll need to get about 220 pounds of wheat per person per year. I mean, of course, if you can't eat wheat for whatever reason, some people have issues with wheat, you can replace this with something else of equal value, equal nutritional value, and equal weight. But about 220 pounds per year per adult. You can also store flour such as this, but I don't really recommend it. I mean, because it's really handy because it's already ground up and everything and ready to go, but it doesn't store nearly as long or nearly as well as storing whole wheat. You can store some flour and date and use and rotate like you would canned food, first in, first out basis. But overall, as you can see, I have some flour myself, but overall, hard red wheat is a much better choice for long-term storage. The next food item you could consider is whole corn. You can get cracked corn, but cracked corn doesn't store nearly as long, so I prefer whole corn. And cornmeal doesn't last long at all, really, in storage. It can last a few months, but cornmeal goes bad fairly quickly, in my experience. So I suggest you get whole corn. You'll need about 50 pounds per adult per year. And the storage life of whole corn is about 12 years. 10 to 12 years, depending on how it's stored and things. I mean, like anything else, if you take it and throw it outside in the rain, it won't last long. But if you take it and put it in the dry, keep it safe from any insects and bugs and rodents and things like that, the storage life is 8 to 12 years. Another thing to consider for your long-term food storage is oats. These are rolled oats, and you should get about 20 pounds per adult per year. The storage life of oats is about 3 to 7 years. It depends on how you store it and where you store it, and just like anything else, it depends on, well, the storage conditions. But if you like oats, you can get a little more. If you don't like them, get a little less, but on average, about 20 pounds per adult per year is recommended. You also need some fats and oils in your long-term food storage. For cooking oil, I prefer olive oil because it stores better and it's better for your health than some of the other oils like corn oil and things like that. You take this olive oil and you can get it in plastic bottles and store those plastic bottles in the freezer. And in the last 3 to 4 years, I suggest rotating the olive oil out every 3 years or so, date, and using a first in, first out basis. You can also store things like peanut butter, butter powder, and margarine powder, and things like that. You can store mayonnaise and different things like that for fats and oils. But for cooking oil, I prefer olive oil over anything else that's available right now. You'll need about 4 gallons of olive oil per person per year. I mean, on average. I mean, different people will use more, some people might use less. This is just general recommendations. Another thing to consider is non-fat powdered milk. As you can see, I bought these already packaged for long-term storage. You can get powdered milk from like Walmart in like cardboard containers and things like that. The storage life isn't very good. You can take those, you can increase the storage life some by putting those containers in a Mylar bag inside a 5-gallon bucket with a good lid and seal those up, and you can increase the storage life of the powdered milk you get at Walmart. But generally I prefer to buy mine like this, already packaged for long-term storage. You can include like chocolate milk and like white milk, but chocolate milk is good to, especially if you have kids. It's also good to keep from being so repetitive each day. And it gives you a feeling of, it'll give a feeling of normalcy if you have like some chocolate milk and things like that, and different drinks and things. That's good. That's why it's also good to include like hard candies and things like that in there. You need to include some coffee. You need to keep everything as normal as you can, especially for children. You also need to store some canned fruits and vegetables. I mean, yours might be different than what I have here. I had some fried apples and fruit salad and green beans and sliced peaches and things like that. But yours will be different. You store what you like to eat and what you eat now, date and rotate on a first in, first out basis. One way to find out how much you actually eat of each item is to eat from your food storage for 1 week and write down everything you eat during that week, and you'll know more of. Then you have a better idea of how much you need to store for your own individual family and your own individual needs, because everybody is a little bit different. People eat more, people eat less of certain items, people eat more of certain items. And the only way to find out for sure how much you need is to actually use it. Like I said, and take a week, eat nothing but your food storage. Write everything down that you use during that week, and then you'll know pretty much. You can add to that. You can add weeks to that, and you'll know by that how much you need to store back for a year. Another thing that you'll need in your food storage is canned meats. How much you store will depend on your location and your circumstances. I mean, if you can go out, if you live beside, say, a national forest where you can go out and hunt during a gridlock situation, then you might not need as much meat. If you can actually live on a farm where you can raise your own cattle and hogs and things like that, and chickens and things, then you can butcher those yourself. You won't need to store as much canned meat. If you live like in the city or an area where you can't have farm animals or you can't hunt, it's best to get out of those areas. But if you can't, then you'll need to store more canned meats. And just like the canned fruits and vegetables, you'll need to date these and use on a first in, first out rotation basis. You also want to add some sweets to your long-term food storage. You can see I have honey, brown sugar, syrup. You can add other items. You can add molasses, maple syrup, sorghum. You can add white sugar, jams, jellies, and things like that. And I have some of those, but I just don't have the room on this table to put everything today. But you'll definitely need some sweets in your food storage, and how much you store again will depend on how much you use. Like I said a minute ago, the best way to find out how much you use exactly for your family and your group is to actually live off your food storage for a week or even a month to be better, and write everything down. That way you'll know what you actually use and what you actually need from week to week. And then you can multiply that to get your perfect year's supply for you and your family or you and your group, based on actual use instead of just what someone says that you need on the internet or in a book or something. Because that's just general recommendations. What you actually need will depend on, like I said, you. And the only way to find out is to actually live off your food storage for a week, and then multiply that, what you need for a year, or live on it for a month, and multiply that to get a perfect amount for you. Another thing that you might want to include in your long-term food storage is pinto beans. Mixed beans is also good and stuff like that. Split peas and things. Any kind of beans is good for long-term food storage. It's also a good idea to add things like black pepper, baking powder, instant yeast, different herbs and spices and things like that to your food storage. And another thing that you should consider is multivitamins, maybe some vitamin C, some B complex, and some fiber. You can see this fiber is in capsule form. You can get this type of fiber at Walmart, but it's in what I've been able to find at Walmart is in a powder form, and I can't understand to drink the powder when you take it and mix it in water and have to drink that stuff down. It's just awful. I prefer this. You can just take these in the pill form and drink some water with it. It's a whole lot easier and a whole lot easier to get down, and I prefer it that way. I'll link to these on Amazon in the description below, and you can check those out if you prefer maybe something like this over the powder form. Another thing you could consider is storing some sprouting seeds. You can see here this is a whole sprouting kit. I bought this about a year and a half ago or so on Amazon. I will go on Amazon and look and see if I can find this, and I'll link to it in the description below if they're still selling this exact kit, or maybe you can find something similar, some alternative you can use. You can also just get some like mason jars and put some screen on top of those and rubber band around to hold it in there, put your seeds in, and then put water in, turn it over, let the water drain out, and do that several times a day. In a few days you'll have some fresh green sprouts. You can eat those sprouts raw, you can dry those out, you can bake those and grind those and put those in breads and things. And sprouts are really nutritious and allow you to have fresh greens in your food stores even during the winter time. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you found it useful, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't find it useful, give it a thumbs down. Also, please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about it and how I can improve, and for future videos and any thoughts and suggestions that you might have. Thanks guys.